I'm going to start off anyway today's session with so many of you sent in some works, and so we'll start off by just scrolling through them. I love that everyone followed the same instructions but came out with such different results. And this was again a quick 2-minute activity. Neerja from Mumbai has some birds and fish and other things going on in her work. And then we have, yep, wow. Here we have Niharika has brought some color into her work, and then Komal I think told us about this. Komal, I'm sorry, I think your work is shown sideways, but I can see the sharks. And Sandra has a koi fish in her artwork. Oh, and there's a snail and a mouse in Praveena's work. This was a really fun activity, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. So that's where we are. We're done with yesterday's activity. I wanted to move on to talk to you guys a little bit about becoming an IADEA ambassador. The idea is to have people that conduct IADEA events, art teachers like yourselves, to conduct events all over the country, and to provide through these events some learning opportunities and also some opportunities for art teachers to meet each other and share ideas and experiences. Because like I said, on the first day, we have teachers here attending from 16 states, 41 towns and cities all over the country. So it would be amazing if each of you or many of you were to share your knowledge and your learnings and your network by hosting local events. So I wanted to just very quickly show you some of the events we've held. We've had a lot more than this, but this is an example. This is what happens when art teachers get together. We A, have a lot of fun, but B, we also learn a lot, meet experts. In Dakshina Chitra, we had folk artists run a workshop. In Mumbai with Piramal, we had Reena Kalat run a workshop for us. And we spent 2 days at the Kochi Biennale and had lunch with the curator, Anita Dubes. That was amazing. If you were an IADEA ambassador, you would invite local teachers from schools in your area, decide the content of or theme of your event, coordinate with the presenters, and arrange the logistics. We would support you in sharing your event with our network across the country. And we would also arrange introductions. And if there's a speaker we know from another city that would work well in your event, we might suggest that we could invite them and sponsor flying them across. We would also help with any special funding you would need for venue or art supplies. So to discuss this, we have a Zoom call on Monday and invite all of you to attend that call. All those of you who would like to host events in your local area. So the chat box is open. If you'd like to participate, just put in your name, your phone number and your email into that chat box, and we'll send you the link to the Zoom call. Or you could also mail us at info@arteducatorsindia.org. That's it from me. I'm handing over to our awesome speakers for today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. I'm Janani, and I'm going to be your MC for the day today. Our theme for today's sessions will be For the Love of Art. We will be discussing the importance of art-based learning through media as a source of social commentary. Our first speaker of the evening is Blaise Joseph, and he is an artist and the program director of Art by Children at the Kochi Biennale Foundation. He's a student of the Jesuit Society in Patna, inspired by the arts, and is also part of the famed Faculty of Fine Arts, MSU Baroda. As a Jesuit scholastic and a student of art, he has engaged with an indigenous community in Bihar, the Muzahars, who were one of the most oppressed and landless laborers in the region. This led him to his real calling to understand creativity and learning by taking up art-based engagements with children as well as adults of marginalized communities. Blaise is joining us from a school room today. So if you can see the benches behind, he is, bringing the whole classroom spirit to our session today. So welcome, Blaise, handing over to you. Perfect.
Thank you, Sarah, Janani, and the entire IADEA team for giving me this opportunity. I'm actually speaking from Alappuzha in a government school where I just had a presentation for initiating a new project. So I would straight away go into a presentation to communicate what I want to share with all of you.
Yes, now it's moving. Perfect.
Okay, then I'm not putting the slide mode. I'm just doing this way. Okay.
Okay, sure, no problem.
So this is I was talking about different materials, natural materials, engaging with the nature, natural context, leaves, talking about leaves and how looking at them can take them to the depth of the soil colors and what we call waste materials also are waste and different kinds of spaces to engage with. Can you see now?
Yes, now it's moving. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so stories, talking about stories and how stories shared by people from the community or children themselves can become illustrated or images, and how these images and stories can be handed over or shared and they become learning resources. And I was talking about the Rikyas and Musahar mythological stories and how children themselves understood or went through that whole mythical context and how they visualized those images, and these are all ways of empowering our own context, because if we don't start our learning context from our immediate context or engage with our own immediate context as learning possibilities, it's actually about prompting us to migrate actually, because we feel insignificant about our own context and we are forced to migrate actually. So migration is not a bad thing, but when that migration comes from the absence of possibilities around us, it's a sad thing. So from that collective experience, from the understanding of the possibilities in a collective effort, we can create different things. Now, for example, this is a visual storehouse built by the entire community, every member of the community, which is now functioning as a community space as well as a display space, where the children's works are displayed and they use in the classroom as teaching learning tools. So those spaces are engaged or interacted with by the members of the community. So the community becomes the actual space for learning, and there are plenty of resources. Now, who are the resources? What are the resources? Each context has its own difference. Now, for example, in this context, this was a project done in a particular school in a village in Samastipur, and the entire village was part of that project, where different kinds of persons engaged with the children, like the weaver or the carpenter. And the weaver is from a Dalit community, and he is insignificant. And the bamboo also is insignificant. But when you take that person and then the bamboo out of that caste barrier and introduce as a medium of possible engagement, it leads to a different realm. So children's realm is vast, and they should be allowed to experience that vastness of their imagination, class. Then the children will be allowed. Children see the possibilities of even designing their own spaces. The classrooms should be designed by themselves, not by adult, some other educators or some other artists coming and painting. But children should have the freedom to tell their stories, they'll express their imaginations on the walls of their classroom.
Blaise, sorry, I'm going to interrupt one more time. There are a few requests to move through the pictures a little slowly so people can see the images. So maybe the last few, especially with the artwork.
Okay.
Just pause for 10 seconds or so, and then thank you.
Actually, I'm conscious of the time. That's it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. Thank you.
So in the Binale, we had started the last edition. We had started a project called Art Room, and we had conducted that project in 7 schools as well as at the Binale space. Art Room is actually a space where this non-judgmental, non-competitive possibilities are nurtured, and from there children and adults can engage beyond the school space and classrooms. And during the COVID, it became impossible to have such physical spaces. And then we started a project called Learning at Home. So I personally, as I shared in the beginning itself, learning is not a children's affair, it's a community affair. So family becomes the basis of that creative engagement. So Learning at Home project focused on families rather than individual children. Although the main participants would be the child, but then the entire family was participating. So the modules were designed in such a way that the family members would automatically engage, and all the activities were connected to their living context. Looking at the courtyard, looking at the people inside the house, looking at the space within the house as an extension of their own body and mind, every object as an extension of their body and mind, their personal histories, their personal stories, looking at kitchen, food production, the stories and travels of food materials to their kitchen, understanding farmers, understanding soil, and even looking at the recipes that are shared among the generations, grandparents, parents, and children. All these were part of the process, and thus the families can actually become the hub of creative learning process. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't know if so I don't know. I'm sorry, I must have rushed through because I'm engaging with just my screen. But now I would like whoever is available here, if you have, I had requested the resource people here who we call participants, if you have brought some materials from your own context, some natural materials, then you could shall I stop share screen?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so if you have the materials, then please recollect from your childhood memories the form and colors of one of the elements that is disappearing from your locality. Maybe soil, certain kinds of soil that you're familiar, certain trees, fruit trees, flower plants, or creatures, birds, animals, or people, and draw it on a sheet of paper using your fingers and palms, right? Your body as a tool. No, we have got plenty of other human-made tools, but the best tool is actually the human body. I would say just one example. In Chhattisgarh, Baiga tribe, the newly-wed girls build their own houses, fantastic houses with mud, with hardly any tool, but using their body as tool. So I would like you to take some time, maybe 10 minutes, and then if you can draw on a paper, it's one of the elements that you want to recollect from your locality of your childhood.
And just in the interest of time, maybe Blaise, people can take to the next 5 minutes to kind of do that activity. And what you do is then share images via the WhatsApp to our WhatsApp number. So somebody will put that number in the chat box and then collate that and share that back. So I think let's do that. So please take the next 5 minutes. I'll also share with Blaise as we're doing that. There are a couple of questions that have come in. And also just want to share, Blaise, there's been so many great comments from the group about really enjoying seeing the pictures, the activities. Vasudha just wrote saying, yes, from materials or, things that have been shifting. She's seeing, sparrows. She misses that. That's shifted. There's also, so just a lot of comments about really enjoying the presentation. One question, as we're kind of just going through the session, I thought as people are doing the activity, I'll also share a question that's come in from Nikita. You covered this when you were talking about learning from home in terms of the inspiration that children got from their families. But when they're in classrooms, what is it that you inspires children with their art? What are the prompts that you share with them in terms of inspiration? Do you want me to repeat that?
We don't need to separate the child's being from home and classroom. Classroom is an extension of their life in the house, in their locality, in their natural surroundings, and school is an extension of the family. So both are actually interconnected. Since children spend a lot of time, so probably in the classroom we need to create more conversations to overcome these walls that are created. School is like a factory only. And I'm not being harsh to critique, because since last 2 years I've been engaged with the education system, so I need to critique also. And it's like a jail, in fact. So where children are processed. So we are separating children's context when it comes to classroom. So we need to consciously remove or reduce these divisions. Therefore, the children's context becomes very important. I would like to share one experience. I've left the Jesuits. I'm no more practicing. I don't practice any religion because art is actually beyond religion. It can embrace every human being, every thing also. But when I did theology, the theologate was in the middle of a village. And the whole village, like every day, we used to engage in the evening till night, we used to engage with the village for teaching, not as religious people, but as people who can conduct classes and all that. But the experiences of people were shared in the classroom to reflect on every theory that we had. So classroom was the village was a context in which we studied, we try to understand certain theologies. Similarly, the immediate context of the child, it needs to become very important for the learning practices. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen because it's a centralized system, and the stories and the context of individuals in the classrooms are never taken into consideration. So how do we do that? And so I don't know if I'm...
Thank you, Blaise. I hope that answered your question, Nikita. Another question that's coming in from Amla is, what natural pigments would you recommend we work with available at home?
It depends on the context. In an urban space, people will be living in flats and apartments. You may have no access to soil, but if you're interested, you can find out also. but cities are becoming more and more intolerant towards soil and all that. So we'll have to find, I don't know, like I am fortunate to live in a farm. So I have several kinds of, and these days I paint using natural soil colors. In fact, I exhibit using soil colors. So I don't know what materials are available. Whatever is natural, you can explore. You're exploring. Like in Kerala, in Chalapudi in 2018, when we had the floods, I worked with the different government schools on the Chalapudi River Basin. And we had several workshops, 3 days each in each school, almost zero waste, zero budget, just enough money for buying chart papers. And they had to create colors from the natural surroundings. So different schools have different kinds. In some schools, they had 25 shades, clay and charcoal and all kinds of saps and all that. Some did not have that much. Yeah, you need to add some glue if it has to be lasting a little. Different glues are available. Maybe neem gum or bubble trees bone. Or if you want to go a little chemical and Fevicol or maida ko, like you stir it in water, boiled water, and that can also be used as glue. So you have to find your own possibilities.
Okay. And linked to that, actually, Pooja Pathak has a question saying that, how do you store the artwork which we make out of natural pigments? Any thoughts?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the climate. In Kerala, we have plenty of a lot of humidity and moisture because of rains. Now, I think the whole year is going to be like rainy season only. We have no season only. Every day it's raining. So it's so we have. I'm also looking for possibilities. So it may not be the same in a dry place. In a dry place, the natural bone will not dissolve. Some dissolving water soluble gums are there. They absorb moisture. Fevicol doesn't absorb that, but that becomes static, and it can kill the cow dung. Can be used. Lime can be used. Egg. So different things are. I mean, I think it varies according to climate also.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So we'll take one last question before we move on to the next session. This is coming from Sukriti. She starts off with sharing that it's great the way you're conducting your classes. She's very curious to know how you have integrated art with other mainstream subjects.
Yeah, I mean, when we are addressing our own local context, we automatically start addressing larger context and larger realities and concerns and issues. Because what happens in the larger world is actually a reflection of or an extension of what happens at the local level in different grades and quality. So I think we always should reflect on the larger issues, starting with reflecting on our own immediate context. So then when I'm talking about natural materials, I can also talk about soil. I can also talk about climate change. I can also talk about the monocultivation. I can also talk about various other issues related to, So therefore, I think the immediate context is the starting point of learning. And if we ignore that, we are most dishonest education system, and most of us are going through the most dishonest education system. We need to actually address it. We have to be honest about it, that it's a dishonest system. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll do one last question since we have a minute, and I think you've also got a great comment from the chat box saying that they really appreciate your authenticity. And the last question from Nikita then is, how do natural colors relate to climate?
Natural colors. I mean, if we are we are taught to believe that soil is something to be scared of. We have got ambassadors from filmdom and the sports world under to establish that big lie also. So the child grows with that lie, and soil is connected to plants. Plants nurture soil. Soil, plants, and the entire ecosystem, they're all connected, no? They're all connected. And climate change is actually when these connections, interconnectedness are broken. I don't know scientifically how many times, how many years it must have taken, I don't know. But we cannot be in denial that there's no climate change. It's not, or we are changing, it's climate loss is changing. So that basics connecting to our ecosystem and becoming more empathetic, that's important. So I don't need to change the world. I don't need to change, but I can make small changes within my context of myself by understanding little things and developing gratitude. And I'm understanding soil. I'm becoming grateful for my own existence. And that can actually.
One quick question. So the activity you wanted them to do, they were going to draw something using their finger, using the natural dye that they saw a lot in their childhood, and that's not there anymore. Was there a second part to that activity, or that's it? Is it done?
Yeah, so they can make it. They will hold there. Okay. Once everyone completes the drawing activity, everyone will hold their drawing.
Unfortunately, in the webinar, they can't
since
do
we
that,
are not visible,
but they'll take a photograph of it and they'll share it with us from the WhatsApp number. I think, Ranjana, can you share that again in the chat box? And then we'll show it before the next session, like we did yesterday.
They can take more time.
Yeah, exactly. They can, even after the session, they can continue. So,
no child is actually, sorry, somebody said sometimes small kids are not ready to use soil or not. Every child actually given freedom starts engaging with natural materials, not with crayons and brushes and paints. Every child naturally engages with the soil, given that freedom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Blaise. Thanks for a wonderful presentation and for answering all the questions. Please share your images at the WhatsApp number that's been shared.